Hi, it's my college farewell today, and that's why I'm all dressed up. But I'm really bored, and that's why I'm making this video, so bear with me. My mom dressed me up around 9 a.m. Yes, my mom did, because I'm wearing a sari. I can't wear a sari. Anyway, so yeah. So she dressed me up at 9 a.m. because she had to go to work. But my farewell starts officially at 12 noon. But that basically means that it's not gonna start before 1 p.m. or around 1:30. So while we're at it, I'm gonna be applying this nail polish and talk about what 4 years of graduation taught me. So this is not how I planned to make this video, but it's happening. One of the first things that I know graduation didn't teach me is to wear a sari. Okay, so number one. The number one thing that college taught me is discipline. Because until school, you had to do homeworks, you had to submit assignments almost on a daily basis, and that kept you on a check. So you would check your diary if there's some homework, and there's always a system of checks. You are not simply on your, and like your parents would also check in because there's so many tasks that you need to complete. So that is one of the things that was a huge, something very different from school is I always used to take responsibility of my own studies, but it's like no motivation per se, right? Because unless the date of the exam is announced, you don't have any motivation to study. But then, I mean, there's no class test, no one is gonna ask you questions. But that's the tricky part. That's why you need the discipline, because unless there's this very uh, important and impactful sentence that one of my professors told me, and that was, you do realize you only have time to study a concept once before you write it in the final exam. And that stuck with me because those concepts are going to be discussed in the class only once, and I may go home later and study them, but it's not going to be the same. So every class is important. In fact, every minute of the class is important. So that's the first thing, discipline for sure. The second thing that I learned during my college years was taking notes. And it's not like we haven't taken notes in school or wherever coaching and all we went, but those are dictated notes. Everybody's notes looks exactly the same. It's like a Xerox copy. So, but when you go to college, you have the freedom to make notes however you wanna. Even if you're not writing anything in a notebook, nobody's gonna mind. You can do absolutely what you wanna do. But just taking running notes and then adding something on it later that maybe you read from a book or some article. So that is something that I mean truly making notes is something that I learned during my graduation year. So wait, I'll show you. So nobody asked me to draw these diagrams, right? So this is probably the instructions of a practical, right? So, and I guess the same is for this one. So I didn't really have to write the procedure and like draw the petri plates, but I did because I wanted to. And then there's like this example. So look at these notes, okay? So there's no reason for these notes to be so, I don't know, attractive, and but I just did it because I was completely responsible for making my notes, and I was responsible for doing whatever is necessary to make me study. And so, making attractive notes is what made me study. So, yeah, that's the second thing. The third thing is that I realized that I am not the main character, okay? And this realization, it took me a long time to realize that. I always used to blame myself if somebody misbehaved with me, or I wouldn't even call it misbehave. If there's like a minor, if they're not talking to me usually how they do, or maybe not even a behavior towards me, just the vibe doesn't seem right. I just gotta finish applying this. Wait. So if the vibe doesn't feel right, I would always, overthink about it, that maybe I did something wrong or something happened. But that's almost never true, because people have people in their own lives are the main character, and so maybe something happened at their house, or they're just stressed about their career or whatever. But yeah, so you're basically, the main character, and mostly people are just in their own thoughts, and whatever goes on in life is something that's like there's always something going on in the background for everyone. So it's in my mind, it's in your mind. We're rarely ever really present in the moment. The third thing that I learned is, some days when you don't feel motivated enough to prepare for a class ekdam, you know or just the days when you really are very low on motivation, showing up is all that matters. If you go attend that class without preparation, without having completed the previous day's notes or adding on to it, it's completely fine, because for that day, showing up, and I cannot count on my 10 fingers the number of times this has happened to me when showing up has made all the difference. To focus more on the side notes. Now, during practicals, you may be gossiping in a corner, or maybe you're not gossiping, but you're there, but you're not exactly present. So, even when the teacher is giving you instructions, you're listening to the instructions, you're nodding to the instructions, but you're not really extremely focused on what she's saying. And that is a mistake. There have been countless incidents where I am present in the practical class and I am trying to be present in the moment, but maybe I've dozed off as in my thoughts for like about 10 seconds or so. But the information that ma'am provided in those 10 seconds, I have a vague idea, I have the context related to what she was talking about, but I don't remember exactly, crisply, the details as to what she was saying. And it has come in the exam, and I regret it so much, because, at some point you have to go beyond bookish knowledge, especially when you have a subject that is so heavily dependent on practicals. You need to develop skills, you need to listen to those tricks that you have to do. So, and not only because it'll help you perform the practicals, but those tricks are based on some concepts. So yeah, the sixth thing that I really mastered in my years of graduation is asking a doubt. In school, I used to ask a doubt very rarely, because the syllabus is easy, you've mostly studied stuff, and there wasn't that sort of a space to ask a doubt, because they are dictating you notes or they are reading out a chapter from the book. So, but in college, however, I just really mastered the art of quickly, simultaneously listening to what the teacher is saying, analyzing what it means, thinking for a second that whether I completely understand it or not, and then following it up with a doubt if need be. So that is something that I really mastered. The next thing that I really indulged in during my college years was passive observation. And this is owing to the fact that I never really made much friends during college, and so I didn't have like a group to hang out with. So everything has its pros and cons, and so one of the good things about not having a group to hang out with was to passively observe people. And I think that gave me a lot of insight into how friendship forms, how people act in situations, and yeah, so that was a really insightful experience. One of the most important things probably that I learned in college was to not care much because there's always going to be the next big thing, that, oh, today you have to do this, tomorrow you have to do that, oh, today this happened, this is so bad. It's like I don't even want to go to college anymore. But you've just got to move past it, and nobody thinks about you so much as you think they do. Nobody judges you as much as you think they do, because everybody is busy in their own lives. So yeah, this is a very important lesson that I've learned. The next important lesson that I learned is that there is no shortcut to knowledge. No matter how much you study before the exam using shortcuts, notes, quick notes, chat GPT, but the knowledge that stays with you is the one that you truly gave an effort to remember. whether it is to focus in a class, so much focus that you never had to revise it a second time, you just remembered it for the rest of your life, or it's about reading from a book, forming a concept. There's no comparison to forming a concept, reading a book by your own, to something that someone else told you and you listened to passively. Last thing and very important thing that I learned in college is meeting a diverse set of people. And so, since there was this diverse set of people that I met, I really became humble, because I used to think that my life is difficult. But when you see others, when you see your batchmates who've lost a parent, so that's when you realize that your hardships in life are nothing compared to the hardships that people are having in the real world. So I had an encounter of the real world, a very close one at that, because in life, whether you're just passing by the road, you still see a lot of people struggling. If you're traveling and you see distant places, you still see a lot of suffering, but you do not understand it as deeply as you would if they were your batchmates. So, people close to you in your surrounding, and you see them day in day out for about 3 to 4 years, that's when you truly understand how difficult their life is. So these are the lessons I learned during my graduation, and I really need to finish applying my nail polish because I'm getting sort of late now. It's all done. It's not that nice, but it will do. Okay, bye.
মুখ দেখো, বাচ্চাও মানে বড় দিদি হয়ে গেছে, এখন কলেজ থেকে বেরিয়ে যাবে, আর এখন দেখো চকলেট খাতে পুরস্কার।
Cheese দেখা
কিন্তু